Yay, we're live.
All right, welcome girls and everybody. This is Annalise Wojtalewicz, and we have Catherine and Julia with us, so I'll just let you guys both introduce yourself, and whoever's talking is going to show up on the camera, so
Okay, well, I'm Catherine Navarro. So happy to be live and share our moments. Annalise and I are great friends, and we chat about this kinds of stuff all the time. I don't know, we get into really in-depth conversations. Somewhere midway, Annalise will always say, we should be recording this. So this is our first time doing so. Hopefully you enjoy our moments together as much as we enjoy each other's. And we have the lovely Julia here.
Hi, I'm Julia Curry, and Annalise and I too have had some pretty in-depth chats, and it is really fun to be connected and just be sitting here chatting about the stuff of life, and I hope we can all glean something from it, and I'm very glad to be here as well.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. I'm so excited. Well, I'm Annalise Wojtalewicz, and yeah, this came from a conversation. Catherine and I were chatting, and we were talking about, I don't even know who knows what we were talking about, but we landed on talking about judgment and fear of being judged, and like what do other people think about me, and why am I afraid what other people will think, and we started talking about judgment. And yeah, she's right. As we were talking, all of a sudden, like, we should record this. Let's do a live thing. And so that's what brought us here today. So we have one other person that is trying to get in here right now, and I'm going to switch over. I'm going to try to message her and see if I can help her get in because she's having trouble. You want to just start? I wrote up. The only thing I did to prepare for this was looking up the definitions of the word judgment. So how does that sound to start with that? Just looking at the definition.
Yeah, cool. We could do that. So I think it'd be cool for us to talk about like what we think it is, because we have our own conceptions of notions of what judgment is, right? So, and I find that with all words, the weirdest thing, right? Sometimes we're going through life, we watch a movie, we walk away from the same movie. Hey, what did you think? What did you think? What did you think? Rarely do you find if we were to do it, we wouldn't come out with the exact same thing, all three of us. Well, I thought the best part was A, B, and C, and this is why. Oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, me too. We'd all be carbon copies of each other. So that doesn't really happen very often. Usually, whatever occurs, we watch a movie and we come away with our own definition based on our own experiences, based on our own filter, our own life glasses, how we see it. So when I think about judgment, for me, it's my opinion, how I perceive something or other, whether it be myself or someone else. And I was telling Annalise, I really honestly believe that as human beings, we all have judgments and opinions. And she said, well, there seems to be a negative connotation around judgment. Like, everybody can have an opinion. If you have too many, maybe you're considered opinionated. But aren't we all opinionated, or is it that some people don't share what they're thinking? Because at the end of the day, we see something, and you walk away with an idea or a notion of something. So I have a judgment today, or this past week, I'll share something that I've been judging myself about, which is I have a cold. I'm sick. I've been sick since last Monday. And Annalise and I did some coaching around this, and I'm like, gosh darn it, I'm a holistic health coach. I'm an eating psychology coach. I can't get sick. What does that mean about my organic eating, my vegetable juicing, my quantum health herbal taking, etc.? Here I am, literally like coughing so hard I can't sleep at night. Finally, I went to the doctor today, and I'm judging myself at the doctor's office and say, I can't really, should I have come sooner? Is it bad that I didn't come sooner? Should I have come sooner because I waited this long? Does that make the cold worse? This, that, those are all judgments, right, that I'm having, that I did something wrong, that I should have come sooner, that maybe my way of living isn't making my immune system better or not, or worse, yada, yada, yada. So that's just an example of me judging myself, throwing my judgment at the doctor, even though the doctor's probably thinking, people get sick all the time, you're human, congratulations. Shake your hand, you're a non-alien. Here's your script for the antibiotic. Get out of here, human. Go take your meds. So that's my share on judgment. I think we all have it. I think we all judge situations, ourselves, others, based on our own life glasses. And I think that if you go through life feeling like you don't want to judge other people or yourself, you find yourself often in a position where you feel bad. Like, oh, I'm thinking X, Y, or Z. I'm not supposed to do that. That makes me a bad person. You know, shame on me kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. And I think that that's really what took us down that road and talking about it, too, is because you made that comment that, well, everybody judges. And I think that's what, really instigated this whole conversation is that, you saying that we're always judging. And I'm going, no, I've worked really hard at not judging. Like, I've spent the last few years with all this personal development and growth work so that I was able to not judge. And judgment to me was that negative connotation of placing judgment, placing negative judgment, and thinking poorly of somebody when we think of the word judgment. And even as an emotion, I think of that as a negative emotion, whether it's placing judgment on someone else or placing judgment on myself. I don't ever think to myself, oh, I'm beautiful today. Look at that. I'm going to judge myself. Yes, I'm beautiful. Like, if I'm going to call myself beautiful today and look in the mirror, I don't ever relate it to the word judgment. I'm going to relate it to, I don't know what, maybe opinion. We had talked about that word as well. And but judgment, it really has that negative connotation. And it's interesting how that has come about. I wonder where and how it ever turned into that for people, because I know I'm not alone with that idea.
Yeah. Julia, you're on.
You're on.
Okay. I didn't know. I didn't hear the transition. Okay, so I'm on. So yeah, that's a topic that I think about quite a bit too. And kind of some of the things that I realize about it in my own experience, at least, is I feel like judgment to me is something that comes a little bit more from the head space, like from the ego or the subconscious. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just that the subconscious was formed when we were pretty young, right? So a lot of times that judgment can come from that space based on the themes when we were young. So for some people it might be, life is great, I'm awesome, and things are fine. So, I'm taken care of, I'm loved, I'm safe. It's safe to be in this world. And so their judgments may be softer or maybe more in the tipping towards the positive. And then, but some people that learn very young the themes were, I'm not enough, am I safe, am I lovable, all those kind of things, and the answer felt more like a no to their child heart, to their child perspective. Then the subconscious would move to protect. So sometimes judgment has kept me, in a lot of ways, I think, feeling safe. Like, so in a sense, there's a positive intention behind it, but at the same time, it can be imprisoning as well. But at the same time, I think there's a difference between judgment and discernment. I feel like judgment sometimes can be more ego-driven. When I say ego, again, that's not even a bad thing, but it can be like black, white, either or, yes and no, it's either this or that. That's judgment, where sometimes it's all about preferences. The ego is all about, I like this, I don't like that. I like what she's wearing, I don't like that. I like this about myself, I don't like that. That's casting a judgment, because the judge sits behind with, and says, I say this is right and this is wrong. Where discernment is more, I think of it more like from the gut, like that intuition, like I'm getting a sense about this situation. Or where you can even notice, like, well, the judge in my head is saying this and this and this, but maybe I'm sensing that it just is. There doesn't have to be a preference about this. It's just that I'm feeling uncomfortable, or I'm feeling insecure or scared. And that's where you can tap into that discernment and that intuition, and maybe it'll soften the judgment a little bit. I've noticed that sometimes when I'm like, what is this really about, Julia? Like if I feel like I'm being harsh on somebody else or something, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling unsafe. I'm feeling not enough. And can that be okay? Can I move to care for that?
Interesting. So I was going to ask you, when you had said that you felt like judgment had kept you safe, or has kept you safe, and I was going to ask you, how do you feel that judgment has kept you safe?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the world, when you did grow up and where things maybe weren't, Beaver Cleaver or whatever, Brady Bunch-ish or whatever.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so, like many of us can relate, I think that the ego moves in to try to protect us from that which feels unsafe. So, it feels safer sometimes to put situations or people in categories, sort of to put a sort of a bubble around you, because if my mind moves to say this is good or this is bad, if fire's bad, I'm not going to touch the fire. The mind's always wanting to make these categories, the ego, the storyteller, I call it different things, the subconscious. And, and at that age, you didn't have the reasoning or the understanding to realize that's not really bad or unsafe or going to kill you type of thing necessarily. That was my husband. I'm so sorry if you heard a strange noise. So, I think that it did keep me safe. It helped me figure things out. It helped me when I didn't maybe have my intuition, that intuitive knowing, and I wasn't as connected to it. I was more in my head and fear, or survival mode. There's a point of that. There's a reason we have survival mode, and maybe at that time we needed it. But as we grow and we get older and we can see bigger perspectives and we have life experience, then we can tap more in and trust that discernment as well. Like, I can understand if I'm looking at another woman and I'm getting really harsh criticizing in my mind or something, I can know in my knower, that's what I call that, place of discernment, that, this is really about me. I'm feeling unsafe in some way. So I can still tap into that and know I'm probably feeling insecure, like something's threatened right now. My safety or my well-being somehow feels threatened. It doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean that's that person's intent, or that person's different than me. Does that mean that they're better, I'm worse? Again, that's the judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. One of the things that comes to mind for me, like when you're talking about, I'm kind of curious about the word discernment now and like how we define that word as well. But when you're talking about that, I'm feeling like we're talking, judgment as being more heady. The judgment is all up here. It's not a gut feeling necessarily, but it's really it's using the head. And when you were talking about discernment, you were talking about more gut level decisions. Was I hearing that right?
Correct. I'd call that the intuitive knowing, that some people call that the place where you get divine impulse or whatever.
So I was just thinking about, one of the things that I know that I've been taught and have heard a lot is just that replace judgment with curiosity. So when I think of, and when I'm working with clients too, I'm always wanting them to replace that judgment with curiosity, get super curious about what's going on, whether it's, usually in that case, it's about themselves. And again, when we're opening that up, that's just like opening up to more of those senses, getting out of the head, opening up to more of the senses, and allowing all of that. But again, I'm just going back to that. Why do we think that's judgment? Where does it? Who said it's got to be bad?
I'm going to throw some definitions in. So when we talk about discernment, I'm just looking it up on Google. Definition. It says, number one, noun being the ability to judge well. An astonishing lack of discernment is their example. And two, it says in Christian context, perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual direction and understanding. So without providing for a time of healing and discernment, there will be no hope of living through this present moment without a shattering of our common life. So it sounds like, with this definition, the ability to judge well means that you're bringing something. You almost have a reference point. Like there's something that makes you a good discerner. Is there something else that I'm missing here? Because it says, without providing, it says perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual direction and understanding. So if there's spiritual direction and understanding, I'm set to believe that something else is coming with you.
Perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining. I like this first one. The ability to judge well.
Well, some people look at it as, I've heard it taught, I remember a mentor of mine, she kind of described it like there's clear reason, okay, and that's the thoughts in our head, right? That's like, there's there's our analytical mind. So back up. I'm saying there's the analytical mind, right? And that's a place where when there's like data to be analyzed, it comes in handy. I have a math problem. I need to make a grocery list. I'm designing a building. Of course, I need my analytical thinking. But the problem is that it kicks into overdrive and we try to use it for things it's not made for. Where inside of us, we all have clear reason and an intuitive knowing that is always there that we can access as well. And that intuitive knowing is beyond the analytical mind. And if people want to take it to a spiritual level, they would say, well, where God speaks to us is directly to our intuitive knowing, where there is access to clear reason as well, but it's a reason that goes beyond logic. You know how you might go in a room or meet a person and everything that you're saying and experiencing seems okay on paper, right? But you just get a sense that something's off. Have you ever had that situation?
Mm-hmm.
Or you just don't feel right in a situation. You might
and vice versa, and the opposite would be when I go in somewhere and like you immediately feel that connection to
yes,
like a
exactly.
person. I mean, that's why we're all friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of that you're hooking into that intuitive knowing when you get something without it even being said. When it's the knowing beyond knowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that's a little bit abstract, but from that place, you can be very curious. You can tap into curiosity more. But the analyzing is there for a purpose. But I remember hearing a neuroscientist talking about, like, the problem is we try to overuse that, and then that's when we get in the hamster wheels of thinking, because we're trying to use it for something it's not useful for. That part of our brain, that analytical, that place where sort of the ego and subconscious is not good for things of the heart. Does not help you in that sense. But it's good for things that, like math equations. and not to say we don't see with our eyes and say that's fire, I don't want to get burned. Yeah, we make that judgment probably just out of the prefrontal cortex, you know what I mean? We're a logic center, but I'm talking more, matters of the heart where things aren't quite so clear and calculated.
That actually brings me to the question, where do we feel judgment at? Are we feeling judgment at that head level, at the ego level, or are we feeling when we feel like we're being judged by another person? Mm-hmm. Is that, in the heart or the gut? Like when we think of those three brains, the heart, the gut, the heart, and the head, where is that judgment coming from when we feel that from other people? Because I know, for me, I'm like, what I'm thinking immediately comes to my head is I'm feeling like that's the heart. The heart is where it's hit. I don't know. What do you ladies think?
I think that when my heart is hit, right, and different topic, probably we've talked about this too, when you're triggered, when it's in your head, I want to just read the definition of judgment here. It says the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. That's the first. And then the second is a misfortune or calamity viewed as a divine punishment. When I think that something's about me, it's usually based on my own experience. I'm taking something personal. And not everything needs to be taken personal, but for my life experience, maybe there's a lesson I haven't learned, etc., and I'm triggered by something that is, right? And I had this long conversation about this just the other day. So you have your facts, whatever has occurred, and then you have your story. And my story is going to let me know if whether or not I'm triggered or not. If I'm just going to view it as this really isn't about me, this is just my story making it about me. My story could be a past experience, something I haven't gotten over, something I still need to learn, and it just, it's on wash, rinse, repeat. It just continues to show up in my life until I can get past that for me. So I would say for me, judgment is in both places. If it hits my heart first, I recognize that I'm triggered and there's a lesson. If it hits my head and I'm able to discern things, then it's possible that either that wasn't a lesson that I needed to learn, so I see it clearly, right? I'm not triggered by it. I don't have any emotional attachment to what's happening or the outcome. Or, thank God, knock on wood, it's a lesson that I learned, and it's no longer a pain point for me.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point. Who's on right now?
Whoever.
Catherine, right? Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure. I want to make sure it wasn't staring at me.
Oh, it just picks up whoever is talking.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a really good point, Catherine. I like that idea that if it's another person, if that trigger didn't hit you at the heart level, that's when you're able to just see directly that that's kind of their own stuff, and just make a judgment on that and not take it in, and not, you don't even have a visceral response to it. That makes a lot of sense.
It could also be that I'm not ready for it.
Correct.
Sometimes lessons show up and I'm not triggered in my heart center because I'm just not maybe spiritually ready, emotionally ready, mature enough to be able to take something on. And I'm, passing it on. And we live in the life of coaches, right? So constantly we're always reflecting. So in reflection, it doesn't occur as often because we're constantly reflecting, constantly looking at what happened, what didn't happen, why, what am I taking away from this, what am I taking away from that, and sharing. We have this, I think, shared vision or shared desire to optimize every moment. Life is so precious. Every moment has a lesson, and we want to kind of extrapolate whatever we can. Just greedy.
We're so annoying.
Is that what you got from that? That's
right.
So funny. Oh, you're gonna make me choke. But that is another. I didn't want to walk away from that without saying I think that is something else. If I'm not ready to see it, there's a possibility that I won't be triggered by either. Maybe I won't even be able to see the logical connection or disconnect. I may not be triggered in my heart. To me, it's a non-issue. I don't see it in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not ready.
That makes a lot of sense. And another thing, I feel like judgment helps, because a lot of women, and myself included, especially in my younger years, I was like so addicted to approval. And so actually I've been able to befriend the times that I have been triggered by judgment from other people, and to realize that is really a call for my own growth and graduation out of needing other people's approval. And really there's no other way to get over that than to face into that. So in that way I look at, wow, what a gift, even though it's hard and it does bring up my stuff and my, that younger place that wanted the security and the accolades and to feel safe and all that, but it helps me grow up in that way, too. So I don't, I think the more that you're stepping into really the truth of who you are, that is going to make some people uncomfortable. That's going to change the dance steps in some relationships, and that will bring on sometimes that feeling of judgment from other people. And even if it is their stuff, and I know that sometimes that it is, I still can feel it. Oh, this is a call to growth. This is a gift. This is, what's in the way is the way. Like, because I'm having to feel that uncomfortable feeling and breathe through it and let it move and still walk the path that I'm going, even though, some people may be uncomfortable or it's triggering their stuff or whatever, So it's definitely can be a judgment from others, can be a gift in that way.
There's definitely growth there when we're feeling that judgment, and I think that's one of the things, for me when I think about being judged, and even in this world that we live in within our coaching world, or as I continue to try to grow my business, I know that one of the fears for me is that whole the judgment. What are people going to think? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I post the wrong thing? What if they don't believe what I believe? What if they have negative things that they're going to say about me? And I know that they also say that until you get your, like once you get your first hater, that you've reached success.
Yeah.
Really, you're standing in what you believe in. You're being authentic and true in who you are, and it's okay if everybody doesn't love us, and it doesn't matter what what their judgments are on us. But I think that you had talked about like going back to that place, or being able to, Julia, like not have to feel that need for approval. I would like to say that I'm past that. But I know that there's still some work to be done there, because I think that it feels good when you have approval. And I know for you, like we've done your why, and your why is trust. So it makes total sense that that's going to continue to be a strand of, wanting to feel approval, and so that you know that people trust you. And even though that's not my why in the why work stuff, I still just feel this heavy feel for, I want people to like me.
But don't you think that that's a human desire? I mean, I think that we all want to be liked. Like, it is a core desire. You go in somewhere, we get to know each other. You're at a mixer, network event, party, family get together, you navigate to the people you get along with, that like you, that you like them. It is the most comfortable space to play in.
Yeah.
And I think that there has to be a good balance, a good dance. Maybe there comes a point in our life where we're only worried about the people that we love the most, the people that are closest to us. We feel that their word and how they view us, their judgments, their opinions, or as Julia has brought onto the table, their discernments, right? That it's in our favor, and that we haven't let them down in some way. And if we have, how can I make that up to you? What can I do differently, right? Because we want those relationships to work. We want them to like us. We want to like them. Yes, we can agree to disagree, but you don't want to agree to disagree like all the time, every conversation. All right, well, high five. We just agree to disagree. High five. Just agree to disagree. There comes a point where there's no thread, no common thread between us. And I might be wrong, but I honestly think that it's a human trait. Now, in the coaching world, like what Annalise has mentioned, it's a completely different scale. It's, I don't know, I don't think it's show business per se, but you are creating your brand yourself, and you're putting yourself out there, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, because that's how you connect with your tribe and your people. And so it's a really vulnerable place to be in. It's as intimate as this conversation, but it's as wide as your followers. Mm-hmm. And I think that I would love to think that there would be a place to reach, or a way to get to the place where there's no fear there, but it just doesn't seem. My logical brain says, how can that happen? If 2 + 2 is 4, we want to be liked, and I believe that we all have opinions and judgments about people and each other, then that means people are going to be judging me. Then it's only logical to think that there will be people that don't like me, and that I will be affected by that interaction as well.
And I think that's where the growth comes, and that's where the self-growth and the work comes, is that us being okay with that.
Yes.
It's knowing that it's going to happen, and that's okay. I am who I am. Love it or leave it.
Exactly. And I think that one thing that, when you do, so many women want to build trust, and it is hurtful when someone doesn't see you, when they miss you, when they misunderstand you. But the thing that keeps happening is that it will happen more and more so you can grow. And it's not so you can transcend the need for contribution or significance, because even in strategic intervention, we teach that we as humans have a need for significance and contribution, and that is real. But what I think the difference is, golly, as a young girl, I was so insecure, and what I was looking for was other people to truly validate my identity, to give me identity, to give me a sense of, I'm okay, I have a right to be on planet Earth, That's different than people mirroring our validation through just mirroring who we really are, You know what I mean? So sometimes people can't be a great mirror. Their mirror's a little foggy, or like Catherine said, you know, the glasses they have on are their own glasses. And
take it back.
What'd you say?
I said, I don't like your mirror. Take it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Like mine?
Exactly.
How are mine?
There you go. Look at you, got some bling on them. That's great. So, you know, it's not that they're giving another person, giving us validity, giving us. They aren't having to legitimize us being here, doing our coaching, stepping out there, and making it okay that we're doing it. They're not giving us identity, self-worth, but they're just, sometimes people are able to mirror it, and sometimes they aren't, because the truth is we are all worthy. We are significant. We all have a gift. We have a beautiful treasure inside of us, you know, and we sometimes can't mirror other people's that great either, depending on our state, you know. So it is a valid need to have people mirror our worth.
I think I'm echoing a little bit.
Oh yeah, you are a little bit too. You must have got a.
You're better now.
Okay.
I didn't hear it. It was fine for me. Can I ask another question, ladies?
Do you want to hear opinion? Or not yet?
Oh, no, not yet. Well, no, I want to ask this question.
Go for it.
When do you judge? Like, I know that for me, I really want to say that I've worked hard, really hard, to go to this place of not judging. And, okay, when I say judging, when I'm using the word judging, I am still using it in the place of a negative connotation. And I think that for when I find myself judging, what I now am able to do is shift it from a negative judgment and into looking for that positive side of somebody. So I'll catch myself. Like, as soon as I find, I'm trying to think of a situation. Being in a public location and seeing a mom yelling at her child. And it's like that immediate being able to, instead of judging her for the way she is talking with her child, being able to look at that situation and, well, maybe that's just that curiosity piece, and being able to look at it and say, I wonder why she's yelling at her child. Did she not get enough sleep? Does she not know any better? She probably isn't sure how to handle it. Maybe, like, it's just like coming up with all those other ways and then looking for the beauty inside of that person in that situation in that moment. But it's been a practice over a long period of time for me to get there, and always being able to shift that situation, look for something positive in the moment, and not place that judgment. I'm not saying I don't do it, but I still would like to think that I'm pretty good at catching, I guess at least catching myself. And
I have a question for
yeah.
you. Do you only use the word judgment when you're looking at others?
No. There's self-judgment.
No. Other than yourself and others. I mean, do you only use that word when you're looking at other people? Because I think we have judgments all the time. I'm going to give you a different definition here. It's the evaluation of evidence to make a decision.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word judgment.
That would be the analytical. You're analyzing known variables.
Yeah.
What's hard is when it's the unknown variables. Using the analytical mind for unknown variables, that's where it doesn't work very well. That's where intuition comes better. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there's known variables, again,
of when, so I'm going to throw something at you, and I want Annalise to tell me if you think it's judgment, discernment, or opinion, and I'll ask Julie the same.
Okay. Hey, girls, before we do that, I just want to keep an eye on the time so that we can keep it to a reasonable length. It's 18 minutes to the hour, so why don't we just make sure that we do, like, we'll wrap it to an hour.
Okay.
Just so we can plan timing. Okay, go ahead, ask me.
Because I'm thinking that I might use judgment more loosely. So for me, I went to a new doctor's office today. I walked in, it was really clean. The woman who answered the phone was really, really nice. And even though it was more expensive than I would normally want to pay to go to the doctor's office, right, I was glad that it was a smooth transition because I really don't feel well. And for me, these are all judgments. They're all my opinion. somebody else can go in there and think that the office was like really bad, that she was like not such a great person, that the price was way too expensive and not worth it, or really inexpensive, and for them it was like the cheapest doctor they've ever been to. So I'm not necessarily judging just one person. Oh, and I thought the doctor's bedside manner was really great. These are all my opinions. They're my judgments. And I feel like when you say that you still judge people, and I didn't stop to think to myself, well, you know, it's really bad of me that I think that this office is great or not great, or I had an opinion.
You thought it was great.
So you think that it's bad if I would have walked in and said this office is bad?
Yes, that's where I feel. That's where I'm feeling the word. Is if I were to walk in, I've done this with doctors' offices. Walk in, and it's been like, just like, you know, the caliber of people, or I don't know, just, yeah, I've done that in doctors' offices in particular.
But whether it's positive or negative, the experience, isn't it still a judgment?
I don't know. That's where I think of it being an opinion. Is I according to the definition, yes, you're right.
Mm.
But I just still.
So what about you, Julia?
I'm sorry, I was off here. I was trying to look at the difference between discernment and insight. And I'm so sorry, I was a little off here. Judge, I didn't hear exactly what you said, but I guess you were totally correct in saying that people usually do think of it as into the negative sense, where that isn't true. It's just creating the mind's way of creating, though, a value, like good, bad, right, wrong, better, worse. I mean, to judge is to distinguish a preference, right? It has to come from a place of preference, or it wouldn't even matter. So sometimes
forming an opinion on what's occurring, like think of yourself like a spy or somebody who's walked into something, whatever it may be, and you're discerning, you're judging, you're giving an opinion as to what's occurring, because even you, Julia, you said we want to feel safe in our surroundings. Right. We want to have an idea. So you want to make a judgment as to, you know, who's there, what you think, what's going on, am I safe here or not, do I like them, don't like them, am I comfortable?
Yes, I would say that comes more from my intuition, though. Okay. Like when I really walked into a situation in a space. Now, everybody has a different degree of sensitivity to that, you know? And I would say that when I walk into space, I'm more in a feeling place, if that makes sense. And that's just me. I'm not saying that's better or worse. I'm just saying I feel like I walk into a situation, I'm like, what sense do I get about this environment? What's that? Maybe it's too much empathy, you know? What's that person feeling right now? And sometimes I wish I wasn't that way. It's tiring. But, you know, I feel like that's where I've had to really learn and understand that high sensing kind of personality, which is the category I'm in my daughter too. So when I'm high sensing. So when I go into situations, I naturally lead from my intuition. And I'm not saying that intuitively I can't sometimes be off, because I can. But you know what I'm saying? Where some people, like I'll meet with people, work with people just like, man, I'm totally in my head. Like, and my judgments are usually pretty sound, you know, and they're usually excellent, like bankers and stuff like that. They can do stuff like that, run circles around me. You know what I mean? So there's that place of, I just wanted to read this little spot real quick. The difference between discernment is described as keen perception, insight, acumen. The Sanskrit word for discernment is about seeing things as they are. Insight is seeing into something from our inner self, not from the outer rigid standards, opinions, or social pressures. When we use, now this is for yoga, Sanskrit, but Viveka, we are tapping into something much deeper than our ego's passing judgment. We are using the ability to perceive clearly.
When I look it up, Julia, this is a lot simpler, but the capacity to gain an accurate and deep intuitive understanding of a person or thing.
Okay, that would be a deeper, more intuitive judgment. See, then you can marry the two.
Of a person or thing when used as a noun. So yeah. That's the first word that we've actually pulled up that's specific now to person or thing.
Yeah.
You guys are both looking at opinion, right?
No, insight.
Insight. Oh, insight. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that. Okay.
Exactly.
Don't judge me.
I'm totally judging you. I would say there's absolutely a place for judgment and decision making and analytical thinking, but I do think judgment can be defined differently, but often how people perceive it is like an ego statement, an ego preference. Good, bad, right, wrong. And it doesn't have to be bad, but sometimes, like you said, Annalise, that curiosity can help soften. If you feel like the mind's really working hard to label something, you know, you can invite yourself to curiosity or others to curiosity and say, you know, I wonder what that's about, you know. Especially if you feel that icky feeling, like I'm being judgy and you just don't like the way it feels towards yourself or another person. You're right, that curiosity is a beautiful compass there to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
You might be onto something. Maybe that's it.
What?
The icky feeling. Like what Julia said.
It is. It's the icky feeling that we're talking about. And when we think of the word, and it's that icky feeling we want to get rid of. So we can judge, we just don't want to feel icky.
That's right. And that discernment will let you know the difference, you know?
Right. You've given me so much insight tonight.
Insight and knowing and judgment and clarity.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to see. What did I say? Oh, I said we're going to talk about judgment, what it is, who does it. Actually, I have a question. Who doesn't do it? Is it possible to not judge? I know Catherine's answer.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible. Especially not in using the word without a negative connotation.
But couldn't, if you're always just open, like you're totally just open to being curious, replacing that judgment, good or bad, with curiosity and complete openness, is it possible?
If you're using
when you're like 99 and you're like this sage.
That's what I was thinking. I was actually where my head went was, I wonder if Mother Teresa judged.
She probably did. She was like, man,
when I think of a guru,
these kids are smelly. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Is it possible to not judge?
And you know, what would be interesting is if you're coming from a place of control, and that's the ego. Anyways, I'm going to make myself not judge. I'm going to effort.
Oh, yeah, true.
You know?
I think a guru, like a yogic guru, if you ask them, what do you think about X, Y, or Z, usually the response is that they toss it back to you and say, well, what do you think?
Sounds like a coach.
Yes.
And when you think of somebody like a yogi or guru, I think they choose not to think about those things. Like their mind is constantly on elevating their soul, and they're so focused on their chant, their practice.
My gosh, quit it, guys.
Their lives aren't. I don't think they necessarily reflect ours. So it's a possibility that they don't judge because they don't even put themselves or place themselves in a position where they're creating space with others.
And you know, and I think going with the yoga theme there too, what I remember an instructor taught me was it's about just understanding that what's going through your head are stories, and it's just less attachment to the story. So even if there's a judgment moving through your head, I think she would say, yes, judgments will run through your head, but it's just you're not attaching to them or identifying with them. You just unhook from it, pass on, and move on. You know, the thought isn't you, is what she said.
As a coach, I would reflect back to my client and say, you know, how much of that is really true? Let's separate fact from your story, right? this person looked at me like this, and I felt like that's the story. All that happened is that someone looked at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Annalise is so playful.
You guys both just judged, didn't you?
We did. You had a funny face.
I clicked on Catherine a minute ago, and now I can't seem to make it go back to where it just like picks up whoever's talking.
Mine never picks up with whoever's talking.
It just shows you the whole time?
Shows you.
The whole time?
Mm-hmm. Unless
No,
I click the person.
I can see both of you.
Oh, I only see Julia on the little box at the bottom and myself on the box at the bottom and you in the big box.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
interesting. It's been changing for me until I clicked on Catherine's name, and I did that when Catherine was talking because when your kids were talking, Julia, it brought up.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's no worries, but it brought up that noise, so I clicked on Catherine's name, and now, anyways, just something for us, to look at for another time. Oh, is it possible not to judge, and then why judge? So I think we've talked about most of that there. Do you ladies have anything else that we would like to throw in before we throw in the towel on our judgment conversation? This was awesome. I'm really glad that you guys were both able to get on, and that, Julia, you were able to join us last minute, and I know there's a couple people out there watching, so hello to you, and thanks for viewing. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to throw in?
I think that personal growth is the life journey. And I recognize that we want to better ourselves every day. We want to learn more about ourselves, about others, about the life lessons that are thrown at us, or the life lessons that we choose to look at and the path that we choose to walk through. And I just want to invite everyone to be as passionate and compassionate about that, empathetic to themselves, because it's not that easy. And I don't know how much perfection there is. I don't know how much perfection is a reality for some or for all. I'm by in no way, shape, or form a guru of any kind, but I do want to give you guys a big hug as well as myself and say that it's a journey, and I don't think there is perfection per se. And we're going to do really great sometimes and not so great at others, whether it's judgment or insight, discernment, opinion, whatever's occurring. Like, just give yourself some time to reflect, grab what you can learn, and whatever you can't, then just let go and let live. And the life will, the lesson will return itself, and don't, hang on to it. It's a painful sore. Like, life should be fun.
Beautiful. Thank you, Catherine. Julia.
Yes, and I would just echo that in the sense of if you struggle with judgment, I know a lot of women who feel very guilty about that. And I know I did. It's that icky feeling. And so I would just say the same thing, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. And you're even telling, if there is a place that it's helping to keep you safe, that's okay too. And bringing compassion to that, like Catherine said, is the key. Allowing yourself space to grow and to learn these things and to even be okay in judgment on yourself if you do struggle with that a little bit. And that's okay. We're all learning together. We're all growing together. And vulnerability and honesty is the path, So we're all on the same boat.
We are. And I think that the last thing for me is really just back to that replacing judgment with curiosity. And I like that idea of, allowing that space to grow and, everything that you both just added at the end there. But for me, it's really just, allowing and just getting super curious, being open to whatever is underneath and allowing it to be. And, yeah. This was awesome.
Yes,
I'm glad that you guys were able to stop on. I'm going to just stop the broadcast right now, but you guys can stay for just a minute.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, viewers.